Welcome to the GrowthCraft podcast. My name is Tom Libby. I'm one of the hosts here. My co-host, Hassan Sorrells, is on a vacation, very well deserved, and I hope he's having a good time. But we didn't, no stopping the wheels in motion here. So I wanted to continue on and give everybody an idea here. So the GrowthCraft podcast is designed with the startup founder in mind. We are committed to growing our podcasts visits through connections with our GrowthCraft advisors, increasing their engagements with the GrowthCraft community. Also, our GrowthCraft community growing your knowledge about the benefits of GrowthCraft itself and what we can provide to you and your startup team. We making the mistakes already, right? So we want you to bring you along on our journey with our guest today. And here on the podcast, we interview startups, startup founders, advisors, and others, all about their journey, their process, their product, and where they're going to fit in with the GrowthCraft community. Today, we are welcoming Holly Gardner to our podcast, and I'm going to give Holly an opportunity to just introduce herself real quick before we get into the Q&A part. So Holly, why don't you tell everybody who you are?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. So my name is Holly Gardner. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SoCitty, and we are an AI-driven platform that provides an asset management platform that enables building managers, residents, homeowners to understand the current state of their building, improve efficiency, track maintenance requirements, and system life cycles in high-density residential buildings, with a focus on getting on the path to decarbonization. So the system provides a means of estimating baseline emissions and a profile for the building to identify areas where efficiencies can be found through operations and retrofit. So I like to think of it as Carfax for homes with a net zero driver.
That's pretty cool, actually. So it's kind of interesting. Your intro kind of took away my first question, which was, tell the listeners exactly what you do, which is kind of cool. But is there anything beyond because that seemed to me like that 30-second elevator pitch feel right to it, right? So is there anything that you can go in a little deeper? What is the advantage there for people to use your platform?
So, a lot of things are left up to chance when it comes to home management. So, oftentimes, nobody really knows when things are going to break or how much money has been spent on things or when things have been last maintained in their home. And so when it comes to a situation where you need to make a repair or retrofit for the house, you're kind of in that panic mode, like, wow, my HVAC system has finally gone for good, and now I have to just replace it with something. And so you're on your heels in terms of like making a data-driven decision about what to invest in your home. And there are so many options out there that we're just getting bombarded with things, right, all the time, like do this, get this incentive, do this thing, blah blah blah. And it's like you just don't have anywhere to kind of get your ducks in a row when it comes to your house. And that's really what I wanted to create. That was really the vision for making SoCitty. It's really to give people that advantage. You can save like up to 20% on the operational cost of your home if it's running efficiently. You can increase the overall value of your home over time by just simply having it appear to be well maintained. You can recoup the capital expenditure of putting in a low carbon system into your home immediately. Once you sell the home, the recoup rate on that is 106%. So, there's all of these opportunities that are inside of like that process of managing the asset, but we're not really able to capitalize on it because nobody can really see it.
So funny, because when you were originally talking about it, I was thinking this was for like big companies with facilities management style, like, that they need this platform, but you're talking individual homeowners as well.
Yeah, so we're really focused on high density residential buildings right now, but inside of those high density residential buildings, you have a building manager that's responsible for the building envelope and the larger industrial like size systems that are inside of the building.
Right.
And then you also have a diversity of ownership all the way through. You've got tenanted properties, you've got owner occupied properties, you've got investment properties. They're all inside of mostly these condo buildings. And they're like a black box. Nobody really knows what's happening with them. It has an impact on the overall health and condition of the building, but also it doesn't give any of the owners inside of the building any real understanding of like where the risks lie, or you know, what challenges they might face over time. And so like there's a multi-stakeholder kind of view to it. Obviously each resident or each homeowner that has a home profile on it, it's limited to their unit or their area of responsibility. But as a whole, we can aggregate that information and give a real sense of where they are.
Very cool. So prompted this, like if you think about like the reasoning behind you starting a startup, a lot of times it's personal, right? Somebody has a scenario that happens and then they want to fix a problem that they encountered, so they go to start this. So what was it for you and your co-founder? Like what was the catalyst of all this?
So a few things. One, my very first job before I even went to university was working as a home efficiency analyst. So going into people's houses and looking at where they could find efficiencies in their home and where they could retrofit their home to improve the carbon footprint of their home. And then further down the road, I really got very interested in understanding what level of granularity people need to inform decisions. So there came in kind of the data side of things where you're like, oh, when somebody says to you, homes are responsible for 40%, or buildings are responsible for 40% of GHG emissions. What does that say to an individual homeowner? They're kind of like, yeah, well, so what does that mean to me? It doesn't mean anything, you know? It has to be broken down into some granularity of understanding, right? Otherwise, you can't inform decision making and nothing will change. Yeah, so those are kind of the things. And then, of course, I've owned a condo for ages and ages and ages, several of them. And, you know, these are problems that exist and they are compounded in sort of that multi-stakeholder environment because you're bound to a lot of things like maintenance fees and I'm not sure about the US, but in Canada, the insurance rates in condo buildings has gone up in some places by upwards of like 700%, like because of things like climate change, because of like needs to be, you know, buildings needing to be more resilient and adapting to extreme weather events, conditions, etc. over time. So like really zeroing in on the building itself and the health of the building and framing it from the homeowner or the resident's perspective is a moneymaker, I think.
Yeah, well, I hope so for you. I do. It sounds it to me. So why do you feel like your solution is the best one available out there right now?
So like you hit on it earlier where you were saying you were thinking this was much more focused on larger facility operations. And there are a lot of solutions like that for commercial buildings to improve their carbon footprint over time. The tools in this environment are few and far between and they're segmented. So a lot of them will focus wholly and entirely on the HVAC system or on certain systems within the building rather than like a full holistic view of the building itself and all of its systems together. So I think in my case, I believe that my solution is the best because it brings in all of the factors that are there so you can see it in one spot. And have an overview of it for long-term planning and for gearing where you're going to make your investments in the property over time.
Cool. So I guess this actually leads me to my next question, which is kind of a piggyback to that, right? Like, why is it the best? But so why are they using it? Meaning like, what, like, how does the consumer actually take your product? And then you mentioned many times about making informed decisions, right? So I like that. I like making informed decisions as well, which is why when the last automobile that I bought, it took me 6 months, like, because I analysis paralysis, so to speak, but I still eventually found the exact car I wanted for the exact reason I wanted, and blah, 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 right? So when I'm if I'm an individual consumer, how do I take your product and use it to my benefit, and what does that data mean to me? So I know it's a kind of a rounded question, but
So we're
hopefully you
really
get it.
taking a very staged approach to this, right? Because the data environment in these properties, as I mentioned, is totally fractured. So if there's no aggregation, it just basically is lost, right? So we have to start at the beginning. Beginning is really establishing that baseline. So what we do with homeowners is we will begin to build sort of a digital twin of the building that they're talking about based on the as-built design information that we can access. And then the person in the unit or the building manager will build their profile onto that address. So they will say, okay, I have this HVAC system. It was installed in this year, and this is how much money I've spent on it so far. This is what it is. And they just build that for each system. And we have a marketplace on the platform that can connect people to service providers, so they can book any maintenance that's required into their profile, and it automatically feeds into that system. So it says, oh, you invested this much, your last maintenance was this day. On the back end, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, they've entered this system in there, and we're pulling all of the data about that system. What are the maintenance cycles on it? What's the life cycle in it? Like, what is the anticipated life cycle for that system? Like, when is the replacement window going to open for that system, for that person, based on some of those estimations. So they can at least understand, my dishwasher is at 90% life cycle. So am I going to put another $500 in to repair it? Or maybe it's time to think about replacing it next time something goes wrong with it.
Gotcha.
That kind of thing. So like, we're taking a very practical approach to this. There's a lot of AI that's going into the back end on the predictive side of things. But for now, it's just basically getting people onboarded, giving them an understanding of where they are, letting them know when their maintenance cycles are going to be, and then identifying over time, these are some areas that could be more efficient. You're overdue for maintenance here, that can result in this reduced efficiency in this side. This will cost you this much. That kind of thing.
It's all, I'm trying to make some sort of analogy in my brain, right? So because I've never owned a condo, so I've never been involved with HOAs or any of that stuff, or that dispersion of funds for repairs overall versus individual. Like, I've never had to deal with that, right? So I'm trying to figure, like, so it reminds me of something like, again, I go back to automobiles just because everybody has experience with buying a car, right? That has nothing to do with the fact, like, I don't have an affinity to cars or anything like that. It's just collective, right? But like Kelley Blue Book, right? Like, Kelley Blue Book will give you that depreciation of a car and if it's been in accidents versus one that hasn't, like, it gives it like values based on things that have happened to it. Is that kind of like an analogy that I could make, or is it so far off that you wouldn't even go there, or is there something missing from that analogy?
So there are separate things, and there's some administrative and governance things that go along with that. And you would get a condo certificate when you're buying a condo.
Yeah.
That basically gives you a sense of like where they are in their reserve funds, and like, who the board is and any issues they've had, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what it doesn't do, and what a home inspection won't do, is anything that's outside of that, right? Like, the home inspector might say, well, you only have 10 years on your 15-year roof, but they're not going to say like, oh, your dishwasher is old, or your window, you know what I mean? Like, they do a superficial analysis of what's happening in the unit most of the time. And you get a report about that, and it doesn't really give you any real indication of where you are. This really digs into like, what is the status of these systems? Like, when was the last time this was maintained? How old is it? Because if you go into, even if you buy a house, you say, oh, well, it's stainless steel, so it must be like within 10 years. I don't know, stainless steel, when did that become a thing? Like, you don't have any idea.
Right.
unless you know how to like read a manufacturer plate.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Um, so a different, little bit different direction here for this question. I want to bring up GrowthCraft a little bit, considering we're on the GrowthCraft podcast here. Um, can you talk a little bit about the community in a sense of either, and you can talk about however you want in a couple of different ways, either like, what advantage have you seen from it? Have you seen something come out of it that's been really good, or what attracted you to it? Like, what about GrowthCraft makes this worth it for you to be involved in this community? And you could say whatever you want. I'm not, you can answer however whichever part of that you'd like. It's
I've really enjoyed, I think I started out very early on with the GrowthCraft crew, and
I
I
think
think,
you were one of our first, actually.
yeah, so I guess I've been around, I'm an OG, like, anyway. So the thing that I like about it is, it's a pretty no judgment zone in terms of, sitting down. I like how we have open discussions about different issues and challenges that people are facing, and everybody, jumps in on it. They're like, how do we fix this problem? I like that. It's very inclusive, and I think everybody learns from it. I don't think entrepreneurship is something that's intuitive, or people are necessarily usually lucky right out of the gate. Like, I mean, not in my life has anyway, like, I think there's a lot of hard lessons that you have to learn along the way, and it's nice to have like a group of people who are kind of learning those lessons along the way too, and maybe helping you avoid a few of those challenges.
Sure.
So I get a lot of value from that. And yeah, just having the structure of it being there, it's great, because everything in building a company is just like constantly like, oh, I have to do that now, I have to make a marketing plan, oh, I need to make like customer pitch decks for technical advisory, or I need to have like every day is like a new thing where you're kind of like, okay, now I need to figure out how to do social media, and tomorrow I need to, and it's just constantly coming at you. So it's good to have like these really structured moments in the month where we can like sit down and just be like, okay, this is what's happening. And just break it down and try to, come back to earth a little bit.
And hopefully solve real problems for you, right? Like that's the thing for us. Okay, so last thing before we wrap up, we always like to ask people about themselves in a sense of promotion. Is there something out there that you want to promote? Are you going to be speaking somewhere? Are you going to be on display or demo somewhere? Like, is your product going to be on display or demo at any conventions, anything like that? Is there anything like that you have coming up in the next few months that you'd like people to know about?
So we're working on a whole bunch of things, but for now, I think if people want to visit our website, we're at SoCitty 2ts.ai. We have a wait list there. People can join up on either side, the service provider side or the homeowner side. And we're also running a number of different surveys and interactions on our social media. So we're on Twitter at SoCitty AI. And then also on Instagram at SoCitty AI. You can follow us there. We have different surveys we're always doing to try to get to know our customers a little bit better, and understand some challenges that different stakeholders and different channel partners might be facing along the way, so that we can improve our product.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Holly, it's been awesome for me. I know you and I have known each other a little while, not like this though. Like, it's always been like in a group environment or something like that, where I hear your pitch here and there. But this has been awesome for me, because I now way understand more about what you're doing, and hopefully our listeners can understand. And I encourage everybody to go check it out. Like, get on their website and follow them on social media and stuff like that, especially if you own a condo, or if you are part of a condo association leadership team, or anybody like that. You should definitely be jumping on there to check it out. As for GrowthCraft, as you guys all know, our goal is to help founders move their journeys along. And the way we do that, and you can join us for some of our workshops and forums and And you can find us at growthcraft.org. So come join us, come check out our website and our social media and stuff as well. So Holly, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you've been a great guest. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. I really had fun doing that.
Bye, everyone.